Right, okay, let's put a little bit of colour into this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brick code. Now we know what row and column they're on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, depending on what column, I'm going to generate a different colour. Okay, so I'm just going to, in the constructor for brick, I'm just going to generate a number. So I'm going to say int, and what shall I call it? Color index, I'm going to call it. And I'm going to generate a random number. Now, built in, I've got a thing called a color helper that's got some color stuff in it. And it's got various standard colors. So we get arcade no black. We've got black background, so we don't want a black color brick because you won't be able to see it unless you want invisible bricks. And we can ask it how long that is. So if we ask how long that is, we can generate a random number from 0 up to the number of items that are in there. Okay, so that's what that does. And then we can pick that a color. So we can say wash, which is the way you wash a sprite, equals, and then we can say color helper dot arcade no black, and that is a list of colors, and we'll just say that index, color index. So let's just run that, and then I'll talk about it again. It should crash. Oh no, it hasn't, because we've used a random number. Okay, so that's how you can do a random one. The other thing you might want to do is just use the column directly. So let's just leave the random number a minute. So instead of color index, I'm just going to comment that line out. I'm going to say wash equals color helper dot arcade no black, and then use the column, not color index, the column to pick it. Okay, so let's run that. So depending on the column, it'll generate a different color, but this time it does crash. And it says index out of range, which means we've tried to access an item that doesn't exist. Column is 7, but if we look at the length of arcade color, it is 7. So that, but unfortunately everything starts at 0. So 0 to 6 are our indexes. But what we can do is we can modify this. So I stopped it running by clicking on the stop button. I can use the mod function to say divide it by color helper dot arcade black no length. So that will do mod 7, which will give us a number from 0 to 6. So let's run that. I did say mod was useful. So you get nice structured column colors. Okay, so you can play about with that and do which one you want. The random's a bit naff really. It's nice to have that like structure, but you can do it in different ways. So the other thing we want to do is when we get game over, yes, we want to say game over, but we don't just automatically want to go back to the start screen. If someone's got a score, then we want to get them to enter their initials. So after we've done the game over display, if we say if our score is greater than gm.scoring, which is the score system, bottom score. So if we've got a score that's better than the bottom score, then what we want to do is we want to do score entry. But we don't do it straight away because of the game over. We want to do it in 5 seconds. Okay, so we're going to say gm.eventmanager.delay call. So you've seen this a few times now. 5 seconds. Now, we only want to run one line of code. So we could create a subroutine and then run that subroutine, but we can do something a bit nicer in C#. We can do what we call an anonymous method. Okay, and it looks like this. And this is for when you don't want to have to create a subroutine. So we say delegate, if I could spell it, it'd help. And it's got no parameters. And then we just put the body of the code. So we just say this is the statement I want to execute. So it does sort of make a subroutine, but it does it without you having to put some code in there. Sometimes that can be tidier. Okay, so that will run and execute this code after 5 seconds. The other thing we need to do, the score entry system, when we've finished entering the score, will send us the initials back, and it does it by sending a message. Okay, so if we subscribe to that, so we're going to say message bus dot instance dot subscribe It's name complete, I think. Name entry complete. And then we get the initials is the subroutine that we want to run. So let's do control dot and grab that. So it's just generated that down there. So let's delete the exception. So let's first off start by unsubscribing to that. We don't want to get that message again. So unsubscribe from extra messages dot name entry complete, which runs the method get initials. Then we want to capture this name. Now this message transmits the initials as part of its object. So it's a little bit like when we did the score, but this time we're dealing with a string. So let's create space to store it. And then we're going to say cast our message object value to a string. Okay, and then what we can do is we can say gm.scoring.add, so new score, sorry, and we're going to give it the score, which we've got hold of, and now the initials. So we add that to the score table. Then we can go back to the title screen. Okay. Right, so at the minute we've got this set up, so we go straight back to the title screen in game over. So we don't want to do that. We want to do that on an else. So if we haven't got a score, we're going to say else back to title. Now I haven't had to put braces. I could have done this, put braces around it. But when you've got a single statement when you execute, you actually don't have to put the braces, which can sometimes make your code cleaner, and it collapses everything a little bit. Right. To trick this, I'm going to go into brick and I'm going to make the points for every brick 100 points. So in I died, where we transmit that the brick's been destroyed, we're going to set it to 100 points so I can try and get a high score without too much effort. So I'm just going to run this, play the game. So I think 400 was the lowest score, so I'll just try and get a few points. No, I've easily done it. So I'm going to let that get killed now. And then hopefully I've got a score. I might actually get the high score, actually. Yeah, I think I will get the high score. Not a very hard game I've created here. And this is the end of the tutorials for this. So after this, you can mess about and explore with sprite properties and things. There's lots of things you can do. Add sound, just ask me about that. Right, so game over. So hopefully it's going to go to the high score entry, which is really naff high score system. So I'm just going to put, and it's left control to select and the cursors to move. So I'm put HB and then I'm going to select end. And there you go, I'm at the top of the score. I've beaten Dave, which is all that matters. Okay, so that's the end of the breakout tutorials.